has always been considered as a very religious place. In fact, it has been the birthplace of several religions. Buddhism was born here in Bihar. Jainism has its birthplace here in Bihar. One of the 10 Sikh gurus was from Bihar. And so religiously, this is a very cultural place. It has a rich heritage in that way. In fact, none of these voices provided the spiritual freedom that people were looking for. And in fact, Bihar was called the graveyard of missions and the graveyard of missionaries just because of the spiritual oppression that was in this particular state on the northern part of India.
In a little while, we're going to saddle up and head on out to a place where the Angika Jesus film has never been shown. And there's probably going to be anywhere from 2,000 to 4,000 people in this location. My prayer is that people hear the good news in their mother tongue. I did notice that when we first got there weren't really very many people. I saw all this tarp laying out there, and I wondered how many folks would show up. And then a few kids came, and the pastor did some songs and had some fun with them. But within the course of maybe an hour, it looked like somewhere between 1,500 and 2,000 people showed up. The people who planned the thing had a few chairs set up. I was wondering, why are there so few chairs? Well, a little later I saw why. Everybody's just sitting there on the ground, leaning against nothing, no chair, no pad, no nothing, for 2+ hours. And it was fascinating to watch how attentive the audience was. That many people, that much opportunity to catch up on gossip and friendship. You'd think there'd be a whole bunch of clusters of people circled together talking about who knows what, but they were all watching the movie, totally watching the movie. I kept asking myself, what is it that compels these folks to pay such attention to something that we would consider just an ordinary movie?
The message of Jesus, when spoken in the heart language, goes deeper into their hearts, is understood with greater clarity, and the people receive the message of Christ because it is no longer foreign to them, but Jesus is speaking to them as one from within their culture and community. And I think that is the great impact of the Jesus film.
As far as we know, none of the 1,500 to 2,000 people had ever seen the Jesus film. This was the first time.
Well, 60 to 70 million people of Bihar cannot read and write. And I think the whole concept of providing the scriptures in the heart language in a format that they prefer is making a difference for these 60 to 70 million people.
इसलिए प्रभावित है कि हम लोग का समझता है कि हमारा भाषा में बात कर रहा है, मेरा अपना यीशु मसीह.
The message of Jesus Christ by the Jesus film came in their heart, and people are accepting, and more time they are requesting me to show the more time this film.
I just know that the odds are when the Jesus film is shown in a place like this, where it comes once in a lifetime to a village, this is the only time in their entire life that they're going to hear the whole story of Jesus.
There is some problem, evil spirit problem. And for that one, I went to the exorcist to get care of that evil spirit. But they could not do anything. Then at last we decided to do suicide. By that time, I saw Jesus film. So seeing that film, I started asking, who's that weird man? Where he lives? I want to meet with him. So the local pastor said, okay, you come tomorrow and we will tell about Christ and we will pray for your wife. Next day I went to the pastor, and after prayer she was healed, and immediately she said, hereafter I will follow Christ. So that was the first power encounter turning in our life.
I served in Bihar for 10 years as a cross-cultural missionary. I was very sincere. I thought that the trade language was adequate. I worked very hard to perfect the trade language, and I used to preach my heart out in the villages. But I knew that there was a gap. It was only after 10 years that God opened my eyes to understand that the trade language is not enough. It just doesn't meet the point. It doesn't go deep enough. The people do not understand with clarity. When we started to serve the people in their heart language, where they started to understand for the first time that God was speaking to them in their heart language, and He loved them so much that He would speak to them in their heart language, that made the difference. When God's word is made available to them in their own heart language, I can see how the shape of an indigenous Bihare church is being formed now. And I can see how literally hundreds of churches in the native Bhojpuri, Maithili, Maghi, Angika, Surjapuri and Panchpargania languages have sprung up just over the last 5 years. And this is God's work.